Feeling the loss of control in the spirit, so colorful. If you feel it, then let's go to a place where you belong. Give you strength to carry on. Open your heart, set your mind at ease. Live your life and you'll be free. We're gonna rise, rise, rise. Keep on rising, rise, rise, rise. Rise, rise. Keep on rising, rise,
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for tonight's match review, of course, of Spurs 4, Newcastle United at 1. Quite a bit to get through tonight after the fallout from the game, the goalkeeping situation, the players themselves, Alan Shearer's comments in his latest podcast, of course, as well. We'll be discussing it all, and, of course, the player ratings at the end of the show. They should be very, very interesting. But as usual, guys, if you do enjoy tonight's show, please do give it the thumbs up. We need those likes to stay up there in the search results on YouTube, so the fellow fans like yourselves can find the channel. And if you are new and you like what you see, please do hit the subscribe button, completely free to do so, and also hit the notification bell, which of course will let you know when we upload any videos or we schedule in our live shows. You can become a member tonight by hitting the join button just underneath myself and Billy. Prizes are coming for the members in the next 48 hours. And also, you can hit the $sign at the bottom of the live comments if you do wish to donate to the channel. And of course, you will be getting your comments read straight out. Right, let's dive in. First of all, Billy, with the situation with the goalkeepers. Now, obviously, started a new thing this morning, doing a live show, talking about specific topics. It was a good show. Instead of recording, I think it's nice to get the interaction from the fans. So that's going to continue moving forward. However, it turns out that over the course of today, Bill, we found out that Newcastle have claimed that Dubravka is playing with a shoulder injury, which begs the sodden question, why is he playing in the first place? If he's got a shoulder injury as a goalkeeper, that will surely affect his movement, surely affect his speed. And we've got Karius sitting on his arse, who, as far as we know, is fit. So why is Dubravka playing with a shoulder injury?
It makes no sense whatsoever if he is. Or are they just covering for him because he's made a couple of mistakes in the past couple of games? I don't know. But as for the goalkeeping situation, I mean, we have to remember why we signed Nick Pope in the first place.
Yeah.
Eddie Howe wanted a goalkeeper that could come out and sweep behind the defence and let the defence defend a little bit higher up the pitch. Martin Dubravka doesn't do that. Martin Dubravka's slow coming out. He's prone to stay on his line. And we saw it yesterday with a penalty where Nick Pope would never have conceded that penalty. He'd have been out to the ball and got on it before Son got near it.
Yeah.
So we have to take that into consideration that Martin Dubravka isn't an Eddie Howe type goalkeeper. And because we're defending that kind of deep, any mistakes we make was straight on the goalkeeper, and we're in trouble. So, yeah, Martin Dubravka isn't the answer. He certainly isn't the answer. I'd give Karius a go. Absolutely, I would. 100%.
Yeah, I think I pretty much made my mind up, before I even did the show this morning, that I wanted to see Karius in goal against Milan, and I haven't changed that opinion. And what it does is it really frustrates me because, Karius is a very, very decent goalkeeper. And, a few Liverpool fans commented on the show earlier on saying that, Karius that season He was at Liverpool, was brilliant for them. He was brilliant in the Champions League. And, everybody focuses on that horrendous mistakes he made in the Champions League final, which I think he was concussed from that elbow from Ramos. And a lot of the Liverpool fans agree. I just can't believe that we're still in the habit of playing injured people when, in big games, and he's let 7 goals in. 7. And I said on the show this morning that I've watched it back. I've watched the goals from Everton and from Tottenham. And Dubravka's positioning and speed is all over the place. The problem we've been looking at, Billy, is when Dubravka came back in for Pope's injury. I even said on this show that I thought, I'm not worried about Dubravka coming back in. I think he's perfectly okay. But I was thinking of the 3 to 4 year ago Martin Dubravka when he was our number 1. And what we fail to gather is it's now 3 to 4 years on. He's not the keeper he was, and the fact that he's playing with an injury. I'm staggered. I'm staggered to put him in goal.
Well, he performed okay at Old Trafford, and he performed okay at Stamford Bridge last season. I mean, there was no.
He didn't have a lot to do with Old Trafford, really.
No, he didn't.
He wasn't.
He commanded his box, and there was no signs that it was going to be this rusty or this bad or whatever. However, how you want to describe it. I agree with you. I think the first goal against Everton, I thought he did poorly with. The ball didn't go anywhere near a corner. He was slow coming out, and if it had come out a little bit quicker, he might have got a hand to it. The third goal, he was beating his near post. That was horrific. The penalty yesterday, the first goal, there's questions to be asked about that. And Loris Karius, at the very least, does sweep a keep. He comes out and mops up behind the fence if the ball gets played through the channels. Mm-hmm. So, Loris Karius is an Eddie Howe type goalkeeper, yet he's still not playing him. And we don't see what happens in training, obviously. But is there a loyalty issue with Dubravka? I mean, there wouldn't be for me because the first sign of kind of competition, he was off like a shot to Manchester United. Yeah. So the loyalty issue for me shouldn't come into the equation whatsoever. I'll be playing Loris Karius. And especially if Martin Dubravka's injured, as has been stated today. Yeah. I doubt that person. I think that's just trying to cover his heart a little bit.
Yeah, but it's really stupid if they come out with that comment today saying he's been playing with a shoulder injury and then they play him in a vital Champions League game on Wednesday night. It makes no sense to me.
It's stupid either way, isn't it? Whether they're covering for him or not. It just makes no sense. I would certainly be playing Karius on Wednesday. I have my doubts whether he will. I think he'll still play Dubravka. But this statement just kind of, eases the path for Karius to be in without any kind of comeback for
fallout. Trolls, thank you for your 100 Norwegian kroner. He says, sell Dubs in January, get to here and buy a great keeper in the summer, in my opinion. Rabbit None saying, WTF, play Karius then. I'm interested to know what you guys feel about this because I'm pretty pissed off, if I'm honest. That they've come out and said that he's playing with a shoulder injury, yet we've got Karius there, who, for me, I think is a better goalkeeper now than Martin Dubravka is. People may disagree with us, but I did rate, and I still do rate Karius. And I wouldn't have a problem with him coming in between the sticks. I'm just a bit frustrated that, they now come out and say this with a goalkeeper who's let 7 in 2 games. And I know it's not just the goalkeeper, all right? The performance from the players was garbage, right? They weren't good enough. The players in front of them weren't good enough. But I don't think those players in front of him have trust in Dubravka the way they do with Nick Pope. Now, it may be different with Karius. I don't know. But if the players have been aware that he's playing with an injury, that might dictate why the players were, you look at the mistakes, Billy, that Trippier made at Everton when he went to pass it back and he kind of was in two minds. Are they not giving him the ball because they don't want him to be under too much pressure because of the injury? I just don't know. And it opens up a huge can of worms.
Well, is Kieran Trippier hesitating because he expects the goalkeeper to be further out the goal than what he is? Dubravka stood on his line as is his wont. And if he makes a mistake there, it's streaming in the net, isn't it? I mean, maybe that was behind the hesitation. We just don't know. Was it just a mental brain fart from Trippier, or was there something behind it? Dubravka being on his line, not further out where Nick Pope would be. He's a different kind of goalkeeper to Pope. Pope's able to play, on the edge of his box most of the time.
Yeah,
Dubravka isn't, and that's the whole point of it all. That's why we wanted not rid of him, but that's why we wanted Nick Pope in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm very interested to know what the guys, what the viewers think. So what I'm doing now is I'm setting up a poll. And our 3 available keepers are all going to be on the list. So I know Gillespie's a bit of a faux pas, but he's in there, right? So I've put the poll up now. It simply is who starts against Milan, Dubravka, Karius, Gillespie. I'm very interested to see what you guys think, because I don't want Dubravka starting on Wednesday, because A, I know he's injured, and B, he's just not good enough anymore. And that has to become a worry. I'm very interested to see what Eddie Howe says in his press conference tomorrow. Probably very little known Eddie Howe's press conferences, but as a Newcastle fan, Billy, we've got to be a little pissed with this.
100%. Yeah, I mean, the medical side of things, it's a hazy kind of picture anyway. I mean, I'll just take you back to the Sven Botman injury. That he was out for 2 weeks, getting off for 4 months ago. They're not kind of giving us any kind of transparency, and if it's not transparency, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
either way, it's a bad, state of affairs, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every injury we have is never what they say.
Yeah,
it's always a week or 2 or 3 weeks, and then I mean, Isaac last year, another example. Wilson, another one. They're out for months.
Well, you know what, Billy? What I'd rather hear is when they're asked about the injuries, just say he's going to be out for a while. Don't put a timestamp on it. Then just say he's going to be out for a period of time. Just leave it at that. Don't come into the press conference and say, right, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because Botman's was only supposed to be for the international break, and he's still not back. So just, there is, I know these, don't get me wrong, this new regime at Newcastle United has turned the club around. It's fantastic, right? But there is still sides to this that can improve, right? And they want, the owners have said they want perfect communication with the fan base. All right. So communicate to them in a perfect way. Don't give us false hope of players coming back and then it's weeks down the line. Just say that he's going to be out for an indefinite period of time. Don't put 2 or 3 weeks on it. King Huddle says, evening Toons. I thought we were very good and utterly dominant. Of course, you have issues around fatigue and lack of ability or desire to rest players, and we were clearly not, at your usual levels. We weren't at our usual levels, but we haven't been at our usual levels away from home for quite some time, apart from the Sheffield United game. And I'm not going to sit here and just pussyfoot around and bullshit and just say that everything's rosy in the garden when it's not, because it's clearly problems. And I just don't understand putting a goalkeeper in who they know is injured. I don't get it.
If he is injured, of course. I mean, we don't know that for certain. There's been no club statement or anything, but if the press are picking up on that, it only takes a quick denial from the club to kind of stop that, doesn't it? So,
I mean, I've watched that Richarlison goal, Billy, a couple of times, the third goal Tottenham got yesterday. That ball over the top, and I said this morning, I truly believe that Nick Pope would have come out and either headed that away or come and cleared it. Because I watched Dubravka the moment that ball came in, and he did his usual. He came, he stopped, he went back. And then even when Richarlison brought the ball down, where the hell was he? How slow do you have to be? And Richarlison must have thought his Christmases had all come at once.
Well, that's Martin Dubravka's big fault, isn't it? He's magnetised to the line. We've seen it countless times, even when he was at his peak, that he wouldn't come out and clean up like Nick Pope does. That's the reason why Eddie Howe wanted a different goalkeeper.
But the thing is, Billy, as Santo was saying there, people are starting to ask questions now as to why doesn't Eddie trust any of the players other than the starting 11? And, to be fair, he's got a point. It does look like that from the outside. I mean, it may not be like that, or understandably, we're not privy to what goes on at the training ground or inside the club. But when your fans looking in and things don't seem right, you're bound to ask questions.
Well, I think he's got to pick his battles, It's all right playing each game as if it's your last.
Yeah.
But that's not the way to progress. You've got to kind of pick your battles. The Everton game was he might have thought we can win this game with those 11 players, but even at that level, Everton mid-table side, Bournemouth were a mid-table side. It's the professional footballers who have played too much and don't get rests, don't perform at the same level as average Premier League players. It's as simple as that. And I know Alan Shearer says different, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I don't
we'll
agree with
come
him.
on to that. We'll come on to that shortly. Tom says, I thought Dubs would be good enough, but the last 2 games he looks shakier than Shakin' Stevens drinking a milkshake and singing a cover of Shake, Rattle and Roll. Niall says, I'm actually shocked we played Dubravka if he has an injury. I mean, look, I'm baffled by it. I have to say, I'm baffled by it. And I'm a bit annoyed at it as well. NUFC Ollie says, Karius is only 30, also still in his prime for a keeper. Give him a chance. People are saying, well, he hasn't played for six years. It's different. And I tried explaining this morning, Billy, that it's a little bit different for a goalkeeper because, goalkeepers, their match fitness isn't the same as what an outfield player is, because they're not sprinting around for 90 minutes. They're in goal. Yes, they need to be fit, but the goalkeeper can use his sharpness in training into a match day environment. It's very different for a goalkeeper than it is an outfield player. So I wouldn't see a problem. Karius has been training. He's been working hard. I wouldn't, he's been a goalkeeper all his life. I wouldn't have a problem putting him in.
No, absolutely not. He performed adequately in the Carabao Cup final, and he hasn't had a chance since. So why not? I absolutely don't see why he shouldn't have a go at it. Especially it is as suggested. Dubravka has a nigger with his shoulder. Just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, you're saying don't believe the Dub's injury, but the club actually said it. So if the club are telling us that, and what are we to believe?
Did the club say it? Is it from the club or was it from the press?
No, it's from the club. It's from the club. Darren says, it screams out protection for Dubs as clangers. I very much doubt he is injured. I also very much doubt he will start against Milan. Now, surely this is to justify him being dropped and to protect him. That seems the obvious thing, Billy. It seems like protection is the obvious thing in all of this.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting from it, if I'm perfectly honest. Yeah.
The report says he's been hiding the injury. If he has, get rid of him. Well, if he's hidden it from everybody, then that's even worse for me. That comes down to a lot of things, but
it's
mainly
lack of professionalism, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's put us in an awful situation. Paul Tully says Lascelles great, but past 2 games he's gone backwards. He backed off McNeil for Everton's first and hasn't covered space against Spurs. Tripp shows Son the line. Son goes to the line. Dreadful defending of late. Many people asking if the personal issue with Trippier back in the last international break, is that playing on his mind? Is something going on there that's affecting him? I don't particularly think so because he was excellent after the international break, and it's the last 2 games he hasn't been at it. But again, I think Trippier should have come off at half time at Spurs for me, but we don't see it like that. Kev says, I'm paying homage to my mentor, Alex. I've been on SofaScore, and Dube scored higher than Spurs' keeper and scored highest score for NUFC, 7 saves. Is he the latest scapegoat? They were all shite. He's not a scapegoat, no. But of course he's not a scapegoat. And listen, we know SofaScore can be very, very interesting with their player ratings. And I don't think even Alex takes the player ratings from SofaScore very serious at all. Yes, the other stats he looks at are very important, but the player ratings, not having it. But it's just one of them things. A lot of people are saying sell Dubravka in January. I don't think Dubravka wants to be here. I think it was clear when he went to Manchester United, Billy, he wanted out, and I haven't changed my opinion of that, really.
Well, I think if Pope had not got injured, I think he would have been sold in January. I think it's a good way of acquiring a bit of FFP. You'd probably get 5 million for him. That gives you 15 million FFP. So, excuse me. Now Pope's injured, I'm not so sure he will be sold. I think, I'm not so sure.
Greg says De Gea is a no-brainer, on a free, and could get the wages we want to pay him. Karius needs a try, which I think Eddie will do, but will take a while for him to play him. Yeah, I mean, look, if we look back at the game yesterday, Billy, it was clear from the off we weren't at it. Tottenham were on top from the start. We had little periods of counter-attacks, which you did mention in commentary that you thought that may be our tactic. Let Tottenham have possession in the middle of the field, shut them down, catch them on the counter-attack very quickly. And it did kind of work first 20 minutes because we did have opportunities. But again, when those opportunities come, one falls to Miggy on his left foot. You know, I mean, if he had a right foot, he could have driven it across the keeper. But, you know, I don't get Miggy. I really don't. You know, the goals he scores from outside the area on his left peg, all he had to do was just curl it round the goalkeeper into the corner of the net. And again, it was another one of those Miggy powder puff shots that goes nowhere. And then Isak has an opportunity, of course, but I put that down to brilliant defending from Davies. I think it was excellent defending. It bounced up off his shin. There's nothing really Isak could have done about that. But Miggy could have scored, Billy.
Yeah, it was a great chance. He's got no confidence in front of the goal at the precise moment in time. He needs to get his foot through it and forget this curvy stuff. Put his foot through it with his left into the far corner to goal. He needs to stop this curvy stuff. It's not worked the past kind of 3 or 4 months, with 1 or 2 exceptions. But I just felt the tactics. I mean, the counter-attack tactic was definitely there for all to see. But I just felt we defended too deeply. We give Spurs the whole of the pitch to play in virtually. Udogie and Porro were rampant down their flanks. And we kind of just let them come on to us, all of them, really. You know, it was inevitable at some point they were going to break through us, and they did. Yeah. Had we have scored first, maybe that would have changed a bit, but I'm not sure it would have. You know, I think we'd have still continued that same way and try to pick them off on the counter. But, you know, Miggy on one side, you know, he offered nothing yesterday for me. And Gordon, apart from that one run which he set up for Isak, he didn't do a lot also. So, yeah, again, that's the fatigue issue. I think it can't be anything else.
Well, let's talk about the fatigue issue, shall we? Because Alan Shearer in his podcast with Micah Richards and Gary Lineker doesn't buy into this fatigue. In fact, he's basically said it's nonsense. You know, 3 games a week shouldn't be a problem because they're elite athletes. You know, the diets, the medical stuff, everything is so much better than it was even when Alan Shearer played. Gary Lineker made the point that, you know, even back in the day, it was the same 11 game after game after game after game on pitches that were just disgraceful to play on. When you look at the bowling greens that they're allowed to play football on now, so Alan Shearer does not buy into this fatigue, and he can't get his head around it. Micah Richards did try and come back on him and say that, you know, it's a faster game now. So fatigue will kick in, and especially it's not just Premier League games you're playing, it's obviously Champions League as well. So you're playing all sorts of different games, but Shearer's not buying the fatigue. He's just very, very disappointed with the form from Newcastle.
Well, I think Alan Shearer talks from an old school point of view, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm generally from the old school point of view myself. But yeah, professionally, when you're playing against players that aren't as tired as you, you're not going to be as good. You know, it's as simple as that. Spurs are playing. Okay, they played 2 games last week, but they've got no cup competitions to concentrate on at the moment. And Everton the same. So it's inevitable to me that if you're playing the same players week in, week out, and, you know, it's a case of they're going to be less tired than the other team. As simple as that.
I mean, there was a brief incident in the game yesterday, Bill, that obviously, you know, it came the first sort of 15 minutes of the second half. We did surprise Spurs, I think. We came out, and I think that the goal was to get a quick goal back because Spurs lately, when they've been in front, they kind of the bottled games. When they've been sort of leading into the second half, they've struggled to hold on to leads. And I think that, you know, the thinking behind that was if we get a quick goal back, Spurs might fold, and you know, we can at least get a point out of the game.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for us that they scored when we were on top, really. We did come out after a bit of respite at half-time and look a better side for 10, 15 minutes. But as soon as they come straight back, we had no answer to them. And it was important for Spurs to kind of get that goal, I think, because had they not have done, and we scored, we may have got our tails up, we may have got a second win, and had a go. What's that?
What the hell was that?
Just sounded like an explosion.
Like a bloody firework going off. That sounded like an email being sent.
Weird. That was absolutely weird. Anyway, yeah.
That was an email being sent. Have you got email open?
No.
I haven't either.
Well,
okay.
That's weird. That's really strange.
The ghoulies are in.
That's really strange. What was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying now.
I have no idea, Billy. It threw me off completely there. I think something about fatigue and stuff. But look.
Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah, we were on the front foot, but that was down to 15-minute break at half time. And once the tide had set back in again, Spurs could do exactly what they wanted to do.
But I think again, I think we were dominated in midfield, Billy. You know, Sarr and Basuma just ran that game for Tottenham, and look, we have to give credit where credit's due here. They you know, Basuma especially is just an outstanding player, and you know, he was absolutely brilliant yesterday. He ran the show for Tottenham, as far as I'm concerned. He was just everywhere on the pitch. But what also caught us, I think, is how. And it shouldn't really have caught us out, but it did, was to how high Tottenham's fullbacks played.
Well, we allowed them to, so we were that deep. It was as simple as that. And despite that, I mean, Miggy, the first minute, Miggy didn't track Udogie back, and we were in trouble from minute one, really. My player of the match for me was Son and Kulusevski. I thought Kulusevski was outstanding. I thought Hans did a great job with his selection as well, putting Son out wide and Richarlison through the middle, and Kulusevski floating around and letting Johnson play on the right-hand side. I thought Kulusevski and Son were superb. I really did. And they're really elite players, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Kulusevski played you know, we spoke about it during commentary. It spoke about his movement. You know, Newcastle found it very difficult to pick him up because I think, you know, although he started the game as a 10, I think he just had Ange give him a free roll. He was just all over the pitch. He was left, he was right. He was a very dominant. Son was Son. Just a superb footballer. So, you know, Tottenham have got some very, very good players there. But we just, I don't know. Yes, tired, but we didn't seem to have that fight in us again. And when we get dominated in midfield, in any game, I think we find it very, very difficult because that's our engine room and we struggle.
Yeah, I think it was a step too far for Miley as well. I mean, 17-year-old, you're running the risk of him getting burnt out before he's really started his career. We know, which is a harsh thing to say, and I know he hadn't had much choice. But there's surely other players in the academy that he could just slip in for a game or two, just to shelter Miley, because I mean he's 17 years of age. You know, there's no way in God's earth he's going to be able to play in, day out, not even week in, week out. So yeah, they're two, Sarr and Basuma, were outstanding. They were helped by Kulusevski as well.
Yeah.
The fullbacks pushing up were all virtually midfielders as well. And then behind them, they had Davies. I thought they had a superb game. Ben Davies defending as well. The twat next to him, I didn't think much of, but yeah.
Well, Romero, you know, we'll come on to him. Barry the B, thank you for your $4.99 super chat. He says, "What's worse? Would you think we play well against Milan and Fulham proving we have an away game weakness, or we play shite again due to fatigue?" I think is the Fulham game at home, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Fulham are flying. Fulham are absolutely flying at the minute. 10 goals in 2 games. And they're coming up against us who've conceded 7 and 2. So they'll be full of confidence coming to St. James's. Channel Right, thank you for your £5 super chat. He says, "I don't agree with Shearer. It's emotional tiredness. After the highs of winning so many big games, that's the reason one refreshes the side."
Here.
I agree with that. And look, again, Billy, we said this last night. You know, we're not in this Eddie Howe out brigade, and those people that are in this Eddie Howe out brigade want shooting with shit, as far as I'm concerned. It's ridiculous, but he's not beyond, you know, a little bit of criticism if he's made a mistake, Billy. And quite frankly, you know, it's come back to bite him in the arse playing the same 11 over and over again.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's not even making changes. I mean, you know, he's got 5 players on the bench who can pull on and off. You know, at different times during the game, and if they're tired, the sooner the better. But yesterday, you know, we saw a couple of changes that actually worked. Longstaff and Wilson coming on perked us up a little bit. But to bring Trippier off with 4 minutes to go was just, in my eyes, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And we will criticise something of that nature because he could have been off at half time. I would have even started him after what happened on Thursday. Yeah, personally, but I'm not a manager, of course I'm not. But you know, for taking him off with 4 minutes left,
there was no point. I thought that was ridiculous. But also, I think when we went 3-0 down, and I said this when Richarlison scored, Billy, I said just make 5 changes now.
Yeah,
take 5 off and rest them for the rest of the game. There is no point keeping them on because the game was gone. We were never coming back there. Right, we were never coming back. So just you've still got your 5 subs. Change your 5. You know, give 5 of those starting 11 a decent break. And as you say, I know Trippier is suspended for Fulham, but it's not Fulham I'm bothered about. It's Milan. and Trippier will play in that game. So I don't know. I just think sometimes, and I've said this before about Eddie's substitutions, sometimes he's not beyond criticism for the way sometimes he changes things. But what I don't understand is this 4-3-3, Billy. It's clear the last two games, whether you can blame fatigue or not, but the 4-3-3, teams are working our tactics out. It's clear because, Dyche did it on Thursday with the midfield, and so did Ange yesterday. They closed our midfield off completely.
The 4-3-3 is fine if you're going to play that intense press. If we're not playing the intense press, you may as well play 4-5-1. You really might as well. If you're not going to play the 4-3-3 and press as we do at home and as we did last season away from home, we haven't done it this season. And that's why I think our results have been poor away from home. The only times we've done it, Sheffield United were able to do it because they were a poor side. And also at stages against Wolves and West Ham, where we looked okay for spells. But the other away games, we haven't done any, the press has been non-existent. It doesn't help when Callum Wilson isn't playing because he's the leader of the press. Just hasn't the energy or the inclination to press. So if you're not going to press, then you have to change tactics, in my opinion.
What would you do though? I mean, is it a formation change, Billy? Because many people have spoke about maybe changing it up a little bit and doing it in game as well, not just at the start of a game, but having that ability to change it mid-game and know that, okay, the 4-3-3 isn't working. They've obviously prepared for that 4-3-3. So why don't we then change to, I don't know, 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2, whatever it is, just to throw a spanner in the works of the opposition, just to change it a little bit so they're not prepared.
Well, we don't have two sixes. We don't really have one. I mean, Bruno plays there, but he's not really a six. He's between a 6 and an 8, really, isn't he? So 4-2-3-1 would leave us vulnerable, I think. But it's worth a try for 10 minutes. Of course it is. 100%. Yeah. We could drop Longstaff next to, or Miley next to Bruno and play Joe Linton further out wide, or Gordon and Joe Linton as a 10, or Miggy's a 10 even. Play Gordon on the right and Joe Linton on the left. It's it's something different, isn't it? And like you say, it would confuse the opposition, the manager and coaches, staff. So it's worth a try. But Eddie Howe seems stuck in this way of 4-3-3, even without the press, which is mental to me because it leaves yourself short. We were short in the field yesterday, no doubt about it. We were short in the field. Yeah,
but the strange thing was, Billy, Anthony Gordon starts the second half as the striker, but it only lasted around 10 minutes.
Well, this is another point I've made a few times.
I don't get it.
He doesn't make these kind of positional changes without changing the formation as much. But I mean, against Everton, it was working. We got 2 or 3 chances with Gordon by playing the ball through the channels, and although he missed the chances, because he missed the chances, he changed it again. I thought, that's just madness. We saw it at Bournemouth with Trippier and Livramento swapping them from right back to left back to right back to left back. I don't know. It just doesn't send out a good message to me. It sends out a message of confusion and not really knowing what you're doing. And that's the hard thing to say, but that's what the message sends to me.
Yep. King Hoddle says, Son said after the game that him and Trips are good friends, and Ange also sympathised with how having to deal with so many injuries. I mean, look, managers are going to back each other up if they get along. I know Eddie said in the past that he doesn't really he wouldn't class any other managers as friends, just sort of acquaintances. But I think there is that sort of managers guild, isn't there, that they will stick up for each other. I'm sure if we'd beaten Tottenham yesterday, Ange wouldn't have said that. he wouldn't have said, "Oh, I feel sorry for Newcastle with the injuries they've got." But Son yesterday seemed to have Trippier on toast. I mean, he skipped round him so easily.
I mean, there was 3 or 4 of those players that played for Spurs yesterday that definitely had an added kind of impetus in the game, trying to kind of cover that 6-1 last season. No doubt about it. Son was absolutely phenomenal. And he's been playing through the centre for Spurs most of the season. To play him out wide on the left was a massive stroke from Postecoglou. Trippier was the man to get at. We saw how he played Thursday. And unfortunately, Son took advantage of it. He was absolutely phenomenal yesterday. And as I said, and he got man of the match on Sky as well. He was an obvious man of the match. He was absolutely phenomenal.
Ian says, I doubt we get to hear 350k per week at Man United would mean Bruno G getting the same as it's in his contract, top paid player. Well, I don't know how you've got that information, but if that is the case, look, I think if we're going to go for De Gea, but there's a problem with De Gea, and it was brought up in the show this morning. If we sign De Gea on a free, we still can't use him till January because we have to. We have to do the squad thing again, and it would be only special dispensation from the Premier League to say we have an emergency situation. Now, if Dubravka is injured, they can maybe say, look, our number 1 and 2 goalkeepers are injured. We need an emergency goalkeeper. Can we have dispensation to add De Gea to the squad? That would probably be okay. But if Dubravka is...
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I don't think the Premier League would let us have it anyway, but no, I'm just saying the possibilities.
Well, with Dubravka injured, there's still Karius Gillespie and a U-team keeper. You know, in the past, we've had to play Jack Anick as a U-team keeper. We've played Freddie Woodman as a U-team keeper. You know, there was no dispensation coming through then. So absolutely not. You know, there's no chance on God's earth that the Premier League would give us a dispensation to buy someone or add to the squad even. It wouldn't even be a case of buying him because he's free. But as for the wages side for De Gea, offer him 100k a week.
Yeah,
offer him 120k a week.
He's not going to get what he was getting at Man United.
He's earning piss all.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, simple as that.
I agree, and I don't think even De Gea would probably expect to be offered the same wage as he was at Manchester United.
Of course not.
That was when he was in his prime number 1 position at Manchester United. I still find it incredible they let him go, but. Irani Granny says, I think it's the AC Milan game on their minds. Nobody wants to get injured like the cup final. It's big game mentality we need to work on. But the thing is, Milan, Milan have some very, very good players. Let's be honest. Some very, very good players. And listen, as far as I'm concerned, they battered us at the San Siro, but we defended like soldiers. It was one of those. And we came out of it with a point. It could have been a very different game.
It was all Nick Pope, wasn't it?
Nick Pope, yep. And of course,
you're not going to. We'll see that with Martin Dubravka. I very much doubt it, but I don't think it'll be the same kind of game as such. But you know, if we're
a different animal at home, obviously, yeah.
We're a different animal at home, but still, we'll still be defending deeper. The defence don't have the same confidence in Dubravka as what they have in Pope. There's no doubt about that. They can't expect him to come out and sweep behind them. So obviously, there's going to be less confidence in the keeper than what there would be if Nick Pope was there. I fear for the AC Milan game. I'll be perfectly frank.
Yeah. Yep, I think a lot of people are, to be honest. Paul Tully says, a faster game today, but squads are also bigger with better sports science. I mean, look, there's going to be people who agree with Alan Shearer. There's going to be people who disagree with him. I'm a little bit on the fence with it. I understand where Alan Shearer is coming from, but I also understand where the likes of Mika Richards are coming from and saying, look, it's a very much a faster-paced game. I don't think it's as physical, Billy. That's the thing. I think back in, Shearer's day and before that, it was a lot more physical because, nowadays you can't even touch somebody's hair without getting sent off.
Oh, I don't know about that. See what I saw yesterday.
Yeah. You know what I mean, though. They're a lot more stricter on yellow cards.
It's more of a funnies game this day than it was 30 years ago for certain.
However, I mean, Miggy, for instance, yesterday, that was embarrassing. Well,
I think Liverpool won the league one year playing 14 players. Something ridiculous like that one season in the 80s or the late 70s. And you'd never get that this day and age because the game's that much quicker. It's that much quicker. It's a quicker game. There's more kind of emphasis placed on science and things like that.
I just think some modern day footballers, Billy, are absolute pansies. I really do. I generally do think that the way they go down. Miggy went down yesterday. He didn't get elbowed in the face. It just brushed him. And if he went down rolling around, but suddenly didn't need the physio, got up and just got on with the game. There was nothing the matter with him. And it annoys me. It annoys me when I see my own team doing that, and it pisses me off even more when I see the opposition doing it. Throwing themselves to the floor, looking to get other players sent off and stuff. Looney Toon makes a good point. Alan Shearer played when other footballers were hard bastards and still managed to play every game and in the Champions League. He never complained he was tired. And, you keep hearing from certain footballers saying, we'd rather play games than train. We'd rather play games. Show it.
But are we still training? Does anyone know that? Are we still training in between games?
Well, I mean... There's the question. Guys, we've got nearly 750 people watching, but only 235 likes on the stream. We really need your help with the likes, guys. So you can just take 2 seconds out to hit the thumbs up button for us. We'd really, really, really appreciate that. I know we keep banging on about it, but it really is important to the channel that we get those thumbs up coming in. So thank you very much for doing that. We are, working really hard here to bring you live shows. I'm starting to do one during the day as well. So we're putting in the effort, guys. So please do hit the thumbs up for us if you're enjoying it. Toon Gamer says, don't forget the amount of traveling our players do too in December. We will do over 3,000 miles of traveling. I'm not having the traveling, mate. I'm not having it. They travel in luxury, okay? Don't let anybody kid you. Even the coach is, I go back to my ice hockey days, right? And the buses we used to have to go away on. And when I was a kid and I used to see the away teams pulling up for games at Newcastle, they were turning up in absolute rot boxes. These guys go first-class flights. They've got planes to themselves. They've got all the luxuries they possibly need. So I am not having traveling at all. I don't think that's a factor in the slightest at all. But it's just it's the games. It's the amount of games that's killing us. There's no doubt about that. But could we have put on a better fight, Billy, in the 2 games we've lost recently? Could we have done a little bit better?
Yeah, 100% we could have. Yeah, 100%. But not with the players at the levels of fatigue that they're currently suffering. There's no doubt about it. It might be a burnout, and it's a moot point with what Alan Shearer says. But we could have done better. But I just don't think the squad been rotated well enough. And I know he's short of options because of the injuries. But still, I think you can still kind of rotate 1 or 2, and you can get even playing Matt Ritchie for a bloody game. I know it's a shit thing to say, but for a game, would he really have contributed less than Miggy Almiron has the past 2 games? Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. Chris is an Arsenal fan. Yes, you are allowed to give opinions on the channel. We welcome opposition fans as long as you keep it, in adult conversation and not get. Let's just behave ourselves in the chat. Mr. Antacid gets on his high horse sometimes, but it's just passion, and that's what it is. But yeah, everybody can join in. Everybody can join in. Let's just keep it a decent conversation about football. And we welcome everybody's opinion. Shakuro says the midfield was outnumbered, though. I think Howe should have changed things up. And that's exactly what we spoke about earlier, Billy, is the ability to change things up. Maybe see that the midfield was getting overrun and do something about it.
Yeah, there's also another point, the one that's been missed, and it's a ridiculous one, really. I'm going to say anyway. We need Stato back. When he pisses off, it all goes to pot.
That's a very good point, actually. That is a very good point. I think it's
don't be going and get married again. That's for certain.
Yeah, absolutely. We are expecting Stato back for the preview tomorrow night. But providing he's Chris says this channel seems to be anti-Arsenal. Well, we're not. We're disappointed with the way Arsenal reacted against us. Certainly, some of the fans. I'm not saying that you're one of them, but we had a lot of Arsenal fans coming on. Saying some really disgraceful things, quite honestly. But we do welcome. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a Newcastle channel, but it's also a football channel, and I like having fans from other clubs. We've got our resident Hammer. We've got a resident Tottenham fan. It's great having other fans on because we get to hear opinions from other fans, and that's what I like. And let's not go. I don't see why it has to be hatred. I don't understand. We love the teams we support, and we can talk about football in general as adults. But the reason people are annoyed with Arsenal, I think, is after what happened at St James's and the things that the Arsenal fans were saying. But I'm not saying, Chris, you're one of them. But we welcome all fans. Jim says, hoping there's a tinge of the eyes on the Champions League, shades of the slump we had before the Cup last season. Yeah, it's kind of mirroring that, I guess. We did go on a slump, of course, before the Cup final, and we threw all the eggs in one basket, I think, during that, didn't we? So, and then we came out the Cup final and picked up. Crying out for Longstaff back in the team. Engine going back and forward and does the dirty work of getting possession and controlling the midfield. I'll say it again. We miss Sean Longstaff when he's not playing. We definitely miss him. You know, he has the odd bad game. Absolutely he does. But which one of the Newcastle United players doesn't? They all have bad games. But the amount of times that when Sean's got going, Billy, he's been outstanding. And nobody can say he hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bright spot. The one bright spot, really, apart from the consolation goal right at the end, was Wilson and Longstaff coming on. And to a certain extent, they both looked really, really sharp as well. More so Wilson, I thought, than Longstaff. But obviously, in the engine room, it's harder to get up to pace quicker. But yeah, Longstaff's a definite miss. And it's a point I've made quite a lot. When Longstaff's up to speed, we don't get over in the midfield by anyone. And Marty's done a fantastic job in his stint in the side. He's been brilliant. But a game or two too far for him, I think, with his age and the physicality of the game. He was very, very anonymous yesterday, wasn't he? Young Lewis Miley. And that's no fault of his own, obviously not.
Bald Geordie says, we are very quick to forget our path to where we are. 2 years ago, we were in the shit.
We can't keep going back.
No, I understand that, mate, 100%. And nobody has ever said that Eddie Howe doesn't have a hard job. And he's had a massively hard job this season with the injuries. There is no taking away from that. But there is a but. It's how you manage those injuries. But what I will say again is that Eddie Howe will make mistakes along the way. I think anybody that says Eddie Howe is or wanting Eddie Howe out is not a true Newcastle fan. It's one of these plastic fans that's jumped on the fence.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not having it. What this man has done since he's come in, he's given us nothing but his life. He has dedicated hours and hours and hours. He's first in, he's last out. He dedicates himself to the job, right? And what Eddie Howe has also done, similar to what Rafa did, he's bought into Newcastle. He understands Newcastle United. He understands the fans. But he will make mistakes along the way. It's how he responds to those mistakes to learn in future games. And I think, Billy, this season is a massive learning curve for not just the players or the fans, it's for Eddie Howe as well.
Yeah, it's naivety. He's never been in this situation before with European football. He never, got that with Bournemouth. The amount of games you're having successful in the Carabao Cup also was added to that fixture list. And he's learning from it. And, of course, he's having to learn from the hardest place possible with a depleted squad. But even then, this take one game at a time and try and win that game. I think you've got to pick your battles. I really do. We're no better forward for him playing his first 11 in the past 2 games when he could have rested two or three at a time in different kind of situations. The home crowd carries at home, so it's a different kettle of fish at home. The home crowd give us a bit of impetus, give us a second wind if you like. Yeah. Away from home, it's a different kettle of fish. I think he's got to do a bit of rotating, and he's been loath to do it. And maybe he'll learn from it, but maybe not. Maybe he sees his way as the way forward, but it certainly doesn't look like it at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, look, the atmosphere is going to be bouncing tomorrow. On Wednesday night at St James's. There's no doubt about that under the lights again. But my fear is, I've seen it so many times. Seen it so many times at St James's when, the atmosphere is absolutely incredible. But then 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in, it's quiet again because we haven't scored. I think it could be one of those games on Wednesday night where, one goal could win it, and it could come in the last 10 minutes of the game. I think people have to stay patient. But what we don't want to see is a couple of goals go in or a goal go in and heads drop. But I don't think we'll see that, Billy, because even at 4-0 yesterday, what I was proud of the lads for is we kept playing. We didn't drop our heads. No, and we've seen that many times in the past under previous regimes where we've gone 2 or 3 down and the heads have just dropped and said, right, well, if we're going to lose 3 or 4, we may as well lose 5, 6. It wasn't like that. We kept going. I've seen a couple of comments about Joe Linton saying that he hasn't been at his best in midfield. I think when he went out left yesterday, Billy, I think he had a brilliant second half.
Yeah, it was excellent second half, but he was anonymous first, as all the midfield were, to be honest. But second half, they switched him out wide left for the last half an hour. I thought he came into the game a lot more. Another point about the away kind of performance and not dropping the heads. The away fans didn't drop their heads either. They were fantastic yesterday. They were still celebrating at the end after they've been beaten 4-1. And that's the kind of fat support you need on Wednesday against AC Milan. And not this, you don't get the tourists go away, obviously. But these tourist fans that do appear for Champions League games, they're going to be there Wednesday. We've got to kind of get them going with us and keep them singing for the 90 minutes because the atmosphere is going to be part of the reason why we win this game Wednesday.
Yeah,
if we win it.
Yeah. King Hoddle says Son has 155 goals for us, and he's not a striker. He's a winger, wide forward, brilliant footballer, which is exactly where Isak should be playing, Billy. I don't believe. I think exactly the same situation as Son at Tottenham. I think Isak is a winger, wide forward, and that's where we would see the very, very best of Alexander Isak.
Yeah, I think it's he's not as good as Son will ever be, to be honest. But
oh no, well, I mean, look, you've had your doubts about Isak, Billy, and let's be honest, you had your doubts when you first saw him, and I was kind of on the fence with it. I think he's a fantastic finisher of a football, and he's got tremendous dribbling skills. But are we really seeing the best of Isak? Is he, these £60 million fee you expect? I don't know. Look, I know Isak in my own heart is a wonderful footballer. We've seen it before he came to Newcastle. We've seen it while he's been here. But something ain't right with Isak.
Do you know what Son's got? Do you know what Son's got that Isak hasn't?
Go on.
Heart. Desire.
Yep. There's a few comments actually saying that they're just worried about his desire, and the rest of the players are sprinting around, running around, and he's walking around. Look, the perfect scenario for me was yesterday when Callum Wilson came on, and Wilson, hasn't played for weeks yet, was incredible in that 20 minutes he played yesterday, or half an hour, whatever it was. He was very direct. He was holding the ball up. He was roughing the centre backs up, and there was once I think he broke through, Billy, and he was just away. And we just didn't see that from Isak in the whole game.
He looked sharp. He looked quick. He looked up for the fight, even though we were losing heavily. And that's something you don't see with Isak. It's fine when the going's good, but when the going's not so good and you need someone in the trenches with you, Isak isn't that man. And that might sound kind of harsh, but that's what I've seen so far from him.
Nathan says Billy's comment, halftime comment on fatigue after the break was the greatest comment I've ever heard.
It was that great. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I think it was just mentioning, Billy, that we've had a rest. Somebody was complaining that somebody had a go at you in the chat, Billy, if you can remember. They said, "Oh, I thought they were tired, Billy," and you made the comment back to them, which was a perfectly legitimate thing to say. Was they've just come out of the dressing room, they've had 15 minutes rest. It was clear that they wanted to try and go for it and try and get that goal back.
I remember now. Yeah, obviously the 15-minute break was everything to do with why we looked a bit more sprightly at the beginning of the second half. It seems obvious to me.
Jasper says Isak showed the most heart in the team last season. What are you waffling on about?
That's not true, is it?
Come on. That's a silly thing to say. It's your opinion, fine, but we don't have to agree with opinions. I'm not having that. The biggest heart in the team last season. Are you having a laugh? Wow. Okay. Tangy says Isak in his latest interview on YouTube, he didn't look like he wanted to do the interview. I guess it could look. We said this when he first signed. I think there was an incident outside the hotel, Billy, where he walked past a load of kids and didn't sign any autographs. I don't know whether you can remember that. And people were saying, "Oh, he's an arse, or he's stuck up, or anything." It could be just his personality. That he just may be like that. He may be quiet. And as it said, "Oh, Billy, it was a proper fast belter reply." I remember that. Yeah, well, one thing is Billy will always be quick on the trigger with that. Paul Tully says, sorry, Jack says, I think Isak's either carrying a knock or scared of getting injured because we've had nobody else fit. Paul Tully says, Isak just isn't that kind of player. He's a laid-back guy. Let's not look at someone and think differently. Jasper comes back and said he was also engaged with the fans like no other player.
Well, he wasn't, though, was he? Jasper, you're making things up. I mean, I know your name's Jasper, but don't throw carrots at us, mate.
I know. That's a good one, Billy. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a load of bollocks because, Miggy was engaged more than Isak was. Bruno was probably the most engaged player that we had. Joe Linton, to name just a few. You can't pull out that Isak.
Trippier.
No, Trippier, exactly. The whole squad was engaged last season. But what Billy's trying to make a point of is that when things aren't going right, you need people who are going to be in the trenches with you. I'm not sure I'd want Isak in the trenches. I'd have Callum Wilson, but we've got two strikers that can't stay fit. But if we were in the trenches, who would you rather have, Isak or Wilson? Oh, Jasper, I must need glasses like you then, maybe. Oh, wow.
God, you're such a wit, Jasper.
Yeah, absolutely. Looney Tunes says, what you smoking, Jasper? Can I have some? I wouldn't. He'll come back with trying an insulting comment like glasses. Oh, my God, I wear glasses, Billy. Can you believe it? I mean,
Well, Jasper's making a spectacle of himself here, so let's just get in there with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, it's time for the player ratings, guys. This is when you guys come into play as well. Let's see if you agree with our player ratings. This may cause a little bit of a... Well, it always does, doesn't it? It always does. Right, we'll start off with... Oh, God. Billy, you can start with Dubravka.
Cheers.
You're welcome.
He just didn't inspire any confidence yesterday, did he? He didn't want to come out and sweep a keep like when he can't. Simple as that. Horrific for the penalty. So slow.
Hang on, Billy. Hang on. This is a classic. Jasper says, act your age, yet he's the one that's just made the joke about the glasses. Wow. Nice. Sorry, Billy. Go on.
Yeah, horrifically slow for the penalty. Horrifically slow for the Porro ball across.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give him a 3.
Yeah, I'm giving him a 3 as well. It's just what I had in mind. Lots of people giving 2s up to 5s. Roy Caviani's giving him a 5, which is incredibly knowing Roy. And Roy's giving him a 5. I think Roy's been on the sauce. But yeah, between 3 and 5's coming in for him. Look, I don't have confidence in him at the minute. And if we don't, as fans, have confidence, how do the back four feel? That's what we have to ask. Right, moving on to right back Kieran Trippier.
Dear me.
Oh, my God. I'm giving him a 4. I thought Trippier Son just danced around him. I don't know what he was doing for the first goal. He was kind of, I think he was doing the river dance at one stage when Son got to the byline. His feet were moving that quick. But you know, I can't give him more than a 4. I thought he was poor yesterday, Billy.
Yeah, he's dead in his feet, mentally and physically. I think I've never seen a player dominate him like Heung-min Son did yesterday. He was absolutely phenomenal against him.
Yeah.
The second goal, I thought he was piss poor in the tackle as well, really weak. But with Trippier, he was up for the fight, but just couldn't do anything with it. So for effort, you can't fault him, but for actual performance, yeah, I think 4's fair.
Across to Livramento. Billy, you can go first.
That was his worst game for Newcastle.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's
he absolutely looked knackered yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He was kind of dominated from Ben Johnson and whoever was against him. Porro went past him a couple of times. Just didn't look at the races. Looked like a right-footed left back yesterday for the first time ever. Which is I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, I'm going with a 5 as well. I thought he got done a few times, and I remember the first time he got done. I think it was it Kulusevski flicked one over his head, or it might have been Brennan Johnson and disappeared into the night. And Billy, you just said, "Ooh, I've never seen that happen to Livramento before." He just looked pagged. He really did. But look, we know how much quality Tino's got, but yesterday wasn't his day. On to Jamal Lascelles. I didn't think Jamal had a great game yesterday, I have to say. But then again, I think he was playing injured. The amount of times that the camera focused on him holding his thigh, Billy, where, of course, we know he had a dead leg from the Everton game. Yeah. So it's a 4 for Lascelles for me. Billy?
Yeah, he went careering into the advertising hoarders, didn't he? After a cross that he tried to get on the end of. Yeah, I think 4's fair. And it's harsh. They're all harsh because we were shite. These marks ain't going to get any better. No. So 4, yeah. I think 4's correct.
Okay, let's move on to Fabian Schär, Billy.
Not as much trouble came down his side, I don't think, but even so, I mean, a couple of great passes second half, but 5.
Yeah, I'd go with the 5 as well. I think he was slightly better than themselves, but again, nothing standout. And that's not to say he didn't try, because he did try and bring the ball out a few times, but he got to the halfway line. There was just nothing there. And of course, you know, when they are tired and mentally drained as well, it's very hard to make passes that, you know, we know that Fabian Schär can make. So 5 for me as well. Into the midfield, Lewis Miley, Billy.
Yeah, he was anonymous, really. Defensively, didn't really help out, but tried. Yeah, it's hard to score Lewis Miley because he's 17 and he has played an awful lot of games, but I can't give any more than 5.
I'm going with a 4 again, for the same reasons, Billy. I think, you know, for 17 years old, let's be honest, this kid has done incredible. And look, when you lose a game by 4 goals to 1 and you get hammered as big as we did, you know, you ain't going to get good marks. Come on. It's just ridiculous. And to be fair, all the marks coming in the chat are pretty much around the same as us, Billy. So it could be one of them where people are just, they're admitting we got a stuffing, and it's, you know, we take it on the chin kind of thing. Right, Bruno. Dear me, this is a difficult one because I don't think Bruno was at it at all yesterday. I'll go with 5 for Bruno. I think the effort was there, but there was just again he was shut down. Tottenham got it spot on with the tactics, Billy.
Yeah, he made one fantastic defensive kind of action in the first half, but apart from that, a couple of nice little passes second half. But yeah, it's 4.
Okay. Joe Linton. Now, Joe Linton for me was he wasn't at the races first half, but I think he was our brightest player in the second half. I'm actually going to give Joe Linton a 6 because he scored as well. Let's not forget that. And it was a brilliant finish. So I'm going with a 6 for Joe Linton, Billy.
Yeah, first half he's probably a 2 or a 3, but second half he was much better. Got involved in the game from wide left, never give up, and scored a good goal also. So 6 is fair.
Okay, now to the front 3. Miggy, Billy.
Well, in the first minute, Udogie went careering down that left flank, and I looked around for Miggy, and he was walking from the halfway line. And I thought, that's not Miggy. That's not his usual effervescent self. Complete passenger, and he should have scored as well. I'm going to give him a 2.
Yeah, I'm giving Miggy a 2 as well. And I've seen some 2s in the chat. Yeah, he's getting scores around. Some are giving him 1s, 3s, 4s. So yeah, again, we're all on the same wavelength with that. So I'm giving him a 2 as well. I think, do you know what it is? What pisses me off is the most is that, you know, we said it against Everton as well. Had he scored that chance against Everton and had he scored that chance against Tottenham, it could be a very different game because we know what goals do, Billy, and they give you that adrenaline rush that gets you through the games. And I just thought, you know, putting the ball in the back of the net would have been Tottenham's domination. It would have been a stab into the heart, wouldn't it? And we know what Tottenham are like. They can fold very easily if something like that happens, but we didn't do it, which is frustrating. Anthony Gordon, I'm going with a 4. I think, you know, again with Gordon, he did try. The effort was there, but the finishing product wasn't again. And, you know, when you play the game like Anthony Gordon plays the game, you know, you're going to get tired because he's a non-stop runner, Billy.
Yeah, the only time we saw his magnificent pace was that counter-attack that led to the chance that could have been for Isak, should have been for Isak, but brilliant defending from Davies. But
do you think Gordon could have shot there, Billy, on his left foot?
Yeah, he could have. He could try to bend it around with his right even. You know, he's right-footed. He could have tried to curve it like he did against Chelsea. Similar sort of finish to that. Yeah. But I'm going to give him a 3.
Yeah. Many people are commenting on Miggy smiling when he misses the chance. I think that's just Miggy. Miggy's way of dealing with it. He knows he should have done better kind of thing. I wouldn't look into anything like that. He's been like that ever since he's been at Newcastle, hasn't he? You know, he does play with a smile on his face to his credit. But, you know, when he does miss chances, people deal with it in different ways, and I think he just smiles as if to say, "Jesus, that was rank." Right, Isak, Billy.
Well, an absolute passenger. I mean,
Mm.
he's literally walked around the pitch. Okay, that's probably over egging the cake a little bit, but it's just minimal effort.
Well, let's not forget there was a few comments in the watch along yesterday, Billy, that that the other 9 outfield players are running around, sweat, blood, and tears, and he's just walking around.
Yeah, I mean, minimal effort. Probably even despite the Davies kind of interception that took it onto his shin, he probably should have scored that. He was only a couple of yards out. But that aside, I'm going to give him, just for purely getting his boots on the right feet, I'm going to give him a solitary 1.
Yeah, I'm going with a 1 as well. That's what I've got down here. I've got a 1. Lots of 1s coming in, 2s and 3s. I mean, Pedro Stoko says, I'm done with Miggy. One trick pony. I mean, listen, the Miggy conversation is never going to go away, is it? Because, there's people pro Miggy, there's people... what's the opposite of the pro again? What's the word I'm looking for? Anti. Yeah. Jesus. See, that is my illness, guys. Sometimes I just can't think. I do apologize, but Billy's always there to put me right. I think with Miggy, the conversation is always going to be there. Billy, is he good enough? Is he not good enough? He has these spells where he'll score, 5 and 6 or something like that, and then he'll go back to a barren spell again.
He needs rest. You can't play 150 mile an hour every game and not see a kind of drop off when you've played 5 games in 2 weeks. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Right. Substitute wise, the first 2 to come on were who was the first 2? Callum
and
Longstaff. So we'll rate them 2 first, Billy.
I'll give Callum a 7. I thought he was his attitude and his effort and his actual sharpness was fantastic. And he'll be disappointed he didn't score from the header. But yeah, 7 for and Longstaff. I'll give a 6 too. I thought he looked sharp as well, although not as sharp as Wilson did.
Yeah, I've got the exact same. Billy, 6 for Longstaff, 7 for Wilson. I thought, Wilson looked like the Callum Wilson we know and love yesterday when he came on, a battering ram. And, we haven't spoke about the sending off incident, but that was clearly a sending off. It was a disgraceful challenge. The fact that the first challenge came in and then he swung his left around to trip him again. So I think it was disgusting.
Yeah, it was red card all day long. And it was a stupid tackle as well. There was the kind of 4 at the time. Ridiculous tackle, and should have been red card.
He's got that in his locker, Romero, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he did it against Chelsea as well. And people were saying he was unlucky, but yesterday he was lucky he didn't get sent off. Really was, and he should have been sent off. And now VAR, I haven't seen that as a red card offence. I'll never know. And it was worse than the Havertz one, and the Havertz one was bad.
Yeah. John says it's called aphasia when you go blank. Well, having Parkinson's, John, that happens to me an awful lot, unfortunately. But like I say, I have my colleagues to help me out. So thank God for them. Looney Tunes says the only reason he didn't get sent off was because he had just come back from a ban. Ridiculous decision. Well, I mean, look, it was horrible. It was a horrible tackle. But it didn't happen, so would it have changed the game? I highly doubt that. I don't think anything.
Of course
it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. So we move on. The other 2 subs to come on were Hall and Emil Kraft. I'm going to give Kraft a 6. I thought he looked decent when he came on at right back yesterday. He made some good runs forward, put a couple of decent crosses in as well. Yeah. So, hats off to Emil Kraft because the times that he's been called upon, I've been really impressed. So I'm going to give Kraft a 7. Lewis Hall, I'm going to give a 3. He was rotten. He was absolutely rotten, Lewis Hall, when he came on. And I can't believe we're saying this, Billy, because we were all over the shop screaming for Lewis Hall to come on the pitch and be part of the substitutions. Where is he, Eddie? Where is he, Eddie? And he comes on and he's absolutely nuts poo, to say the least. But he hasn't played for a long time. So, we're not going to see the best of him in a little sort of 20-minute spell, are we? Or are we? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he needs games under his belt and to see the best of him. And he hasn't played for such a long time. Well, neither has Kraft, to be fair. But, of course, Kraft's far more experience. He's 10 years older also. And that's the difference between it, I think. I mean, Hull was very, very shaky, and he was chasing the ball and everything. He was like a dog chasing a balloon at some points
Yeah.
in the game.
Yeah.
Whereas Emil Kraft actually came on, defended pretty well, got a fantastic crossing for Wilson, which, as I said, he should have scored. I'm disappointed he didn't. But yeah, I think Kraft 7's fair, and I think all 3's fair.
Yeah, Hall is better than he.
Of course he is, and he needs to play more. Absolutely does. Absolutely does.
He's better than what we saw. Absolutely. Finally, Eddie Howe, Billy.
That's a hard one to mark because it's not going to be great, and it's going to get criticism. I think too.
Yeah,
I think his management of the squad's. I know it's not been easy for him, but he's paid big bucks to do it. You know, his management of the squad's been ropey, poor, and his in-game tactics and substitutions were just as bad. So 2 out of 10 for me.
Well, I'm going with a 3 for the same reasons, Billy. I think, you know, when it's all going well, we praise Eddie to the hilt. He's got to be criticised when it's not. You know, like you say, he's paid the big bucks to manage these kind of situations, and yes, it's been a crazy situation with the injuries, but you have to look at maybe what he's doing in training with them, or, you know, is that part of the reason for the injuries, etc. We don't know. Obviously, we're not privy to that, but what, you know, when things, you get hammered 4-1 as a manager, you're not going to be praised very well. But I think his in-game management needs improving. I really do. And that's not me just shouting down on Eddie Howe. That's just me as a fan, just thinking, what could he do differently? And for me as a fan, his in-game management needs to be better. Changing the formation, the tactics, better substitutions at better times in the game. But you know what?
I think he has to be more trusting of his squad and not just of 12 or 13 players that he generally does trust. Yeah,
absolutely. But there you go, guys. That is the match review done and dusted. We'll take a look at the poll before we go, and the poll has finished. Who starts against Milan? If you said Gillespie, then I don't know what's going through your head, because
Jasper.
I threw Gillespie in there, but of course he's not in the Champions League squad, so he can't play. So I was that was a kind of testing your knowledge thing. 7% went for Gillespie. 7. I mean, crazy.
Well, hi, Mark.
Crazy.
Hi, Mark. Hope you're enjoying the show.
Dubravka got 23% and 70% for Karius, Billy. I mean, look, 70% of the Newcastle United fan base want Karius to play on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't think Eddie Howe will take any notice of it. I think he'll still play Dubravka, but you know, if he does, and after this injury thing, you know, maybe he's setting it up for a rest for him.
Yeah. We'll see. But that is the review done and dusted. We just to let you know, guys, before you go, we now go live at 11 o'clock with myself every morning and 7 o'clock on weeknights. I know it was a bit later tonight because Billy had a doctor's appointment, but we normally go at 7 on the night time, but we are starting to go live with myself at 11 o'clock every morning now. So make sure you're around for that, or if you can't watch it because you're working, etc., make sure you watch it later on in the day, of course. So you've got plenty coming up from the Toon review in the coming weeks now to keep you occupied throughout the football season and beyond. But thank you for your super chats tonight and new memberships. Thank you to the Mod Squad. Thank you to Billy. But again, thank you to you guys. You're absolute legends. And thank you for your company and your sensible conversation tonight, apart from Jasper. And we will see you again tomorrow. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Monday evening, folks. We'll see you soon. Good night.
How are the lads and lasses?
Come back and check on some breathe.